Hello, I'm Ren, X-Wing Cartodex, or Connor, and welcome back to Paintober D21! Today we're painting the Crimson Abbot. I have the page up for his lore, but I'm not going to go too much into that, only because he is kind of one of those creatures that you don't really want to spoil a whole bunch about, but I love this model. I super duper love how this model turned out. The concept art for it was very special, and I had a little bit of a hard time trying to follow it because of how difficult it was going to wind up being for me. But other than that, this thing looks pretty freaking crazy with how much they were actually able to detail on it. The only thing that would be better, in my opinion, would be if my camera work would actually show him on the screen more than 50% of the time. I think I could enjoy that a little bit more than what we have wound up with, which is I paint off screen for a majority. This was maybe 5 hours of recording, and he's not even on the screen most of the time. But that's okay, I suppose. One way or another, he's there. He's being painted. We're good. So let me see what I can read about him, because he is obviously the big boy vampire of the little vampirelings, and so he has a lot of special things that I don't want to spoil, only because I think I'm going to run a game with my family at some point, and I don't want to allude as to how terrifying this man is going to wind up being against them. So, the Crimson Abbot, he is a vampire, obviously, and he has some immunities, various languages that he knows. Plus, this is the highest of all the pluses here, and it's a +9. I won't say what stat it is. I won't say what skill it is, but that's a terrifying thing to have on board. Let's see here. He has legendary resistance, much like the Harvest Terror. He can, when he fails a save, he could choose to succeed instead, which makes him very dangerous for people that have spells of binding on him, basically. Just cancel it, gone, removed, destroyed, reduced to Adam. He also has Spider Climb, so he can climb without having to make an ability check. That's terrifying to even think about. He has the big ol' sword as seen on the model, which is called the Sanguine Blade, which is pretty wicked if you ask me. He has multi-attack, which is also pretty wicked. And he does 1d10 plus 6 slashing, as well as 2d6 necrotic with the blade, which is pretty terrifying, honestly. To be in the same room with this thing, I would cry. He also has spells, but we're not going to get into the spells that he has, because that's, you don't want to let people know all the secrets. That one's safe. We'll keep that. We'll let that one go. We won't tell anybody about that one. It's another ability that he's got, but we're just going to leave that alone. So, I have done a menagerie of things trying to make sure I had that same sort of copperish tone across his whole body here. So what I've done for a lot of these little angles is I've painted in Xandri Dust, I believe it is, which has allowed that Balthazar Gold to kind of brighten up a bit, because I did thin it down. Otherwise, it's a mostly tan is what I've wound up painting here. You can see a lot of the cloak I have wound up doing a small dry brush of the fang as well on the knee, as well as the back of the wings, because I wanted to pick them out. I'd made a horrible mistake at the very beginning of this that cost me so much time, which was I painted the back of the wings red, and I wasn't paying attention to the concept art during that, and I could have just left it red, and, that would have been big old red wings, whatever. Nah, I went back through. Fixed my mistake. They're black now. And I wanted to make them look fancy, so I threw in a dry brush of the fang on that to where it gives it almost like a midnight, like a midnight shadow across the whole thing. Just kind of give it that fancy look. Here I'm doing dryad bark for the middle of the cloak because I think that's fancy. Oh, so I died a little bit. It's okay. I sneeze every video. I normally cut it out, but it's okay. Here I'm going into the little bricks here. I'm doing a mixture of Dawnstone, Mechanicus, and just flat black for the shade and everything to try and pick out these little pieces and bits and bobs of brickwork. Just kind of, make everything look a little bit on the fancy side. Whenever I put this guy on a table, I want people to have to pick him up to look at it and be like, wow, there's a lot here. There's a lot going on here. And then also, like, we have to fight that. We hate you. We disown you. You're gone. Get out of here. I don't want to see you ever again. But beside that point, he does actually look pretty wicked, all things considered. I love his hat. I love his wings. I think probably my favorite part is the wings. The dry brush really picked out a lot that I didn't think it was going to initially. I thought I was going to have to go through with a layer brush and kind of pick out some of those. But all in all, pretty cool. Pretty cool. I finally get to use a lot of that blood for the blood god that I've had for years on these models because, look, they're vampires. Of course, they're going to be all bloody and related and blood and all that stuff. So I just thought that was kind of neat. Here, you can't see it because of the angle yet, but I do wind up painting veins. I paint veins on the wings because it's in the concept, or it's not the concept art, it's just the art in the book, which I thought they were going to look trash like everything I paint, but it turned out really well. Honestly, that is one of the parts that I'm actually like genuinely excited about, is that they just look so wicked whenever you can actually catch a glimpse of the veins and the wings. I think I show it off here. Get a nice little view of it. Bring them in close. Nice. Yeah, I definitely, these miniatures have been a solid pick from me, and I 100% later down the line, whenever they finish up with the Kickstarter stuff and it's not so much of a hassle, wherever I can buy miniatures, I will probably buy miniatures because, oh my god, these things have been not horribly difficult to work with, and they're actually very nicely modeled. And just like, there's so many, they left open spaces to get into areas that you would have to do some like real stupid finagling trying to like get a curved brush in so you could paint a spot. The only thing I would want to do is figure out if I could take the miniature off the base. That would help me immensely. Just so that way I can do the base up and it looks nice and fancy, and then whenever I put the miniature on it later down the line, they both have had enough time away from each other that I can get some really good details in there without trying to do stuff otherwise. Because I would 100% like to go in with a dry brush of just straight up like Mechanicus mixed with Abbot black and hit all those little stones with some nice little highlights. But I was not able to because the miniature's there. I did a whole bunch of shading here, mostly Nuln Oil, but I threw a little bit of Agrax on his hair because that is where it looked the most brown. So that's where that goes. I think I'm using Grey Knight Silver, Grey Knight Steel. I don't remember exactly what the paint is, but I have it in my list of paints and my menagerie of paints across my desk. Hold on, let me find it. Oh, the Grey Knight Steel. I didn't even have to find it. I'm pretty sure I said it. It's fine. We're okay. But yeah, look at this guy. Look at this little nerd. I threw in a little bit more highlights, threw some lead belcher in there to try and brighten it up. I think I do use a little bit of that Grey Knight Steel as well, just kind of making sure that those little edges and stuff are supposed to pop. Because I know the armor was basically black, and it had a trim of kind of a tannish, copperish look. So I wanted to make sure that those little pieces popped when it came to somebody actually being able to see the corners, which normally I don't do for miniatures. This is kind of one of the first models that I've ever tried to do specific things for. And I think on camera it turned out really well. Honestly, while I was looking at the model, I was kind of like freaking out because I'm like, it looks bad. It looks bad to me. There's so many little pieces and stuff that I'm looking at that I just can't get over. But overall, he didn't turn out bad. He turned out pretty all right. I think once I can actually set my eyes away from it and take a good look at it, aside from up close, like right up in my face, it did turn out not bad. Not bad at all. Here we're using Blood for the Blood God on all the little blood pools and everything, trying to really make that have a glow up, I guess. So whenever the light shines on it, you can see it's all gloopy and it shines a little bit like any sort of liquid would, which is pretty wicked. I'm glad that there's technicals and stuff that do that sort of thing, because otherwise I would be very much out of luck to paint blood. Look at this guy. Look at this little dude. What a guy. I did do a little bit of highlights on the sword with, I think, Celestra Gray, so it is catching light, but I definitely did it way too much. But that's okay. It's okay. He's a little nerd guy. Trying to bring in the wings close so you can kind of see those lines. I didn't know because it was on my other monitor, which is not color corrected, so I had to figure out if I could see those or not. But overall, you can see it pretty well, actually. Not bad. All right. Thank you for watching, listening, going about your daily life. I've been Ren, Explain Carded X, or Connor. This has been Paintober D21. This has been the Crimson Abbot. I don't actually know what tomorrow is, but I think it's Hermit Crabs. And this Thursday, I have a special Enshrouded where, for once in a very long time, I build. So, you're going to enjoy the hell out of that, probably. Anyways, take care.